Imagine cars so secret they were hidden from the public, locked away in dusty warehouses or tested under fake names. Prototypes, experiments, and mysterious one-offs no one was meant to see. Today, we reveal the top 12 most secret cars you won't believe exist. The hidden legends that almost disappeared forever. Watch till the end and don't forget to subscribe. The 1956 Packard Predictor is one of those haunting, beautiful remnants of an American automaker's last desperate push to matter in a world that was changing faster than the company could keep up. Conceived not as a simple styling exercise, but as a beacon of rebirth, the Predictor was meant to be the car that would pull Packard back from the brink, a glimpse of a bold tomorrow shaped by mid-century optimism and an unshakable faith in chrome, fins, and futuristic glass. It arrived at a tragic moment. Packard, once the proud maker of some of the world's most refined and aristocratic cars, had spent the post-war years slowly losing ground to Cadillac and Lincoln. The reputation for handcrafted quality and quiet elegance began to look old-fashioned next to the space-age flair sweeping through American showrooms. By the mid-1950s, Packard's merger with Studebaker had drained cash instead of adding stability, and the company was running out of both time and money. In the midst of this crisis, Packard's designers and engineers reached deep into their collective imagination and built the Predictor, a car that, even today, stops people in their tracks. From every angle, the Predictor is unmistakably a product of its time, and yet somehow timeless. The nose is long and clean, punctuated by minimalist quad headlamps framed in sculpted metal housings. Its roofline is impossibly low, yet the interior feels airy thanks to the dramatic wraparound windshield and vast curved rear glass. The roof itself was a small engineering marvel. The front panel could retract, turning the Predictor into a semi-convertible before the world had even coined the word targa. The rear window could also slide down into the trunk, an innovation that was decades ahead of its time. But perhaps what makes the Predictor truly remarkable isn't just what it looked like, it's what it represented. Beneath its sleek fiberglass and steel body was a statement Packard would not simply copy GM and Ford, they would innovate. They would imagine a future that merged luxury with design daring, combining the reserved grace of their pre-war cars with the dramatic, low-slung styling that had begun to define modern American cars. The Predictor also showed flashes of practical futurism. Those sleek, sharply defined lines weren't just for show. They hinted at better aerodynamics and modern unibody construction. The trunk was integrated smoothly into the body rather than tacked on, and the interior combined bright metal accents with padded safety features, echoing Packard's reputation for engineering substance as well as style. Yet, as the Predictor toured auto shows and caught the eye of crowds, Packard itself was quietly fading. The grand plans for an entire lineup inspired by the Predictor never materialized. The brand's collapse wasn't just a business failure. It was the end of a uniquely American vision of luxury, where engineering excellence and understated dignity had once been enough to command the respect of the world. When Packard died, the Predictor didn't lead a parade of new models into the future. It stood alone, the final creation of designers and engineers who knew they were building something special, even as the walls crumbled around them. Today, only this single car remains, living out its days under careful preservation. It stands as a silent monument to the courage of last chances and the tragedy of unrealized dreams. People who see it in person often remark on how modern it still feels, how the clean edges and sweeping glass seem less like the past and more like a different future that never arrived. The 1956 Packard Predictor is more than just another show car. It is a fragile, rolling question. What if? What if Packard had survived long enough to put these daring ideas into production? What if the world had been ready for a car this different? What if a single prototype could have saved a legendary brand? Its story is melancholy, but also deeply inspiring. a testament to human creativity and hope, built right at the edge of darkness, when all that was left to do was dream. The 1970 Chrysler 300 Hurst convertible isn't just rare. It's one of those nearly mythical cars whose very existence sounds like rumor until you see it gleaming under the sun. All 19 feet of white steel and bronze gold accents, hulking yet impossibly elegant. Born at the crossroads of marketing bravado and muscle car excess, these convertibles were the crown jewels of an already audacious partnership between Chrysler and George Hurst's aftermarket empire, meant to sell speed, style, and a bit of spectacle all in one colossal package. To understand why the 300 Hurst convertible is so captivating, you have to start with the coupe. The regular production 300 Hurst was itself anything but regular. At a time when muscle cars were usually mid-size, Chrysler stuffed a big block 440 Magnum V8 under the hood of its full-size C-body coupe, a platform more familiar to country club parking lots than drag strips. The result was a nearly 2-ton Grand Tourer that could still knock off sub-7-second 0 to 60 times and cruise comfortably at triple-digit speeds. And it wasn't shy about its intentions. The fiberglass hood and trunk lid wore a dramatic bronze stripe, offsetting the snow-white paint, while a molded rear spoiler and power bulge hinted at brute force lurking beneath formal sheet metal. Just around 485 to 500 of these coupes were built, making them collectible in their own right. But the real legends are the two convertibles. Built not for the showroom floor, but as rolling promotional statements, these were born from Chrysler's marketing department and Hurst's flair for the theatrical. One went to Miss Hurst Golden Shifter herself, Linda Vaughn, the iconic motorsport spokesperson known for waving from giant Hurst shifters atop parade cars at drag racing events. The other car stayed in Chrysler's corporate orbit, showing up at press events and car shows as the attention-grabbing centerpiece that could literally stop people in their tracks. And attention-grabbing they were. Measuring over 19 feet long and weighing more than 2 tons, the 300 Hurst convertible was an unapologetic colossus. Yet thanks to the 440 Magnum's 375 horsepower and broad, street-friendly torque, it could still thunder down the freeway at a true 130 miles per hour. This was a car built for effortless American interstates, not tight European backroads. A car meant to flatten miles into memory, with the top down and the exhaust rumbling like distant artillery. The styling amplified that contradiction. Formal C-body Chrysler lines draped around muscle car cues, hood scoops, wide Hurst stripes, and a spoiler big enough to double as a picnic bench. The fiberglass hood and trunk were genuine weight-saving measures, but they also gave the car a bold, custom-built vibe. This wasn't some badge and stripe trim package. The Hurst treatment transformed the car into something that felt both more aggressive and more exclusive. But even more than the specs and styling, what truly makes the 300 Hurst convertible legendary is its sheer improbability. By 1970, the muscle car wave was already cresting, insurance rates were climbing, emission standards were looming, and the days of 400-plus cubic-inch engines were numbered. Chrysler's choice to build not one, but 2 convertible land yachts dripping in gold and roaring with big block power feels almost like a defiant last hurrah, a celebration of excess before the curtain fell. Today, the 2 convertibles are among the rarest Mopars on Earth. Seeing one in person is like spotting a white buffalo, an improbable survivor from an age when car makers occasionally signed off on something wild just because they could. They're museum pieces, but they're also drivable reminders of an era when horsepower was cheap, style was loud, and the road stretched out endlessly ahead. And in the end, that's why the 1970 Chrysler 300 Hurst convertible endures not just as an artifact, but as a story of late-night design meetings, marketing gambles, parade laps with Linda Vaughn atop perch shifting parade cars at drag racing events, and thunderous freeway sprints in a car so long it seemed to bend the horizon. A reminder that sometimes, even in a world of bottom lines and market research, a few mad geniuses could still build something gloriously unnecessary, and in doing so, create a legend. The 1965 Ford Mustang GT convertible, Shorty, isn't just an obscure footnote in Mustang history. It's a haunting, metallic echo of an alternate universe that almost existed. Its story is as improbable as it is fascinating. Born in a swirl of Detroit creativity and marketing ambition, stolen and hidden away like a lost masterpiece, then rediscovered decades later to reveal what the Mustang might have been if Ford had taken a very different path. To understand why Shorty is so special, you have to step back into the feverish excitement of the early 1960s. Ford was about to launch what would become its most iconic car, the Mustang. But before the final production car was approved, the company's design studios and engineering teams built a small fleet of experimental prototypes, some radical, some subtle, to see what might capture America's imagination. Among these, Shorty stood out as one of the most radical and striking. Instead of the familiar four-seater coupe that became the face of the pony car era, Shorty was envisioned as a compact two-seater sports car, shorter by over 1.5 feet than the production Mustang. Its dimensions were closer to those of a European roadster than an American family car, and it was built to see if Ford could sell a car based on pure style and driving excitement rather than practicality. The design team used fiberglass to sculpt its distinctive fastback body, giving it an almost exotic coach-built look. The roofline swept back aggressively, the rear seats vanished, and the proportions became tighter, lower, and undeniably sportier. Underneath the sleek bodywork lay real substance, a high-performance 289 cubic inch V8, the same heart that powered some of the hottest production Mustangs of the era. This wasn't a clay model destined to sit under show lights. It was fully drivable, with real power and the promise of serious performance. The idea was to create something that felt more like a personal GT, intimate, fast, and focused entirely on the driver and one lucky passenger. At auto shows and private previews, Shorty turned heads and generated buzz. It looked like a Mustang, but felt like something more exclusive, something rarer and perhaps more European in flavor. Yet, despite the fascination, Ford's product planners ultimately decided that the market would rather have a sporty car that could carry 4 people. The Mustang's whole appeal, they reasoned, was its versatility. A car you could drive every day, but that still felt special. Shorty, for all its charm, was just too limited. So the prototype, officially known as the Mustang two-seater concept, ended up stored away, its fate seemingly sealed. But then, in a twist that feels ripped from the pages of a crime novel, Shorty was stolen from the storage yard where it waited among other prototypes and pre-production cars. For decades, it simply disappeared. Collectors and historians whispered about it. Some believed it had been chopped up for parts or quietly destroyed to avoid legal complications. The fact that no other car quite like it existed only deepened the mystery. Then, miraculously, Shorty resurfaced. It had spent years hidden in private hands, quietly passed from owner to owner, escaping the crusher and the scrapyard by sheer luck and a few car lovers who understood its value. When it emerged into the light once more, it was clear that this wasn't just a rare car. It was a rolling piece of alternate history. Restoration specialists and historians treated it with reverence, carefully bringing back its original bronze paint, the unique fastback lines, and the tidy interior built for 2. Today, when it appears at concourse events or special Mustang gatherings, Shorty feels both familiar and alien. It has the Mustang's iconic cues, yet the proportions and silhouette suggest a different lineage, a wilder, more European path the brand almost took. And that's why Shorty matters so deeply. Beyond the rarity of being truly one of a kind, it captures a moment when the future wasn't decided yet. In those final months before the Mustang debuted, Ford's designers and engineers were dreaming out loud, trying to guess what the public really wanted. A practical four-seater? Or a daring two-seat sports car? Shorty is the tangible answer to that question, a what-if brought to life. Standing next to it, you can almost hear the creative arguments in the design studio, feel the excitement of building something so radical, and sense the heartbreak when the decision came down to choose the safer path. And you can't help but wonder, what if? What if Ford had gambled on the purest sports car vision? Would the Mustang still have changed the automotive landscape, or would it have become a niche curiosity rather than an icon? Ultimately, Shorty is more than just a Mustang prototype. It's a survivor of a moment when Detroit dared to ask bold questions, and proof that sometimes even the cars left behind have the most powerful stories to tell. Its journey from experimental dream to forgotten artifact to cherished relic makes it a living time capsule of what might have been, and a tribute to the creative spirit that helped make the Mustang a legend in the first place. The 1968 Dodge Charger 3 concept is the kind of car that doesn't just belong to the past, it feels like it never truly belonged to any era at all. A wild, breathtaking fusion of science fiction fantasy, jet-age bravado, and 1960s American muscle spirit, the Charger 3 was less a car and more an audacious sculpture that asked, what if tomorrow's supercar wore a Dodge badge? Built purely as a showpiece, it didn't even run under its own power, but half a century later, it still captures imaginations like a spaceship frozen mid-landing. At first glance, the Charger 3 looked almost impossibly low and wide, as if it had been pressed to the pavement by gravity itself. The entire car stood barely over 42 inches tall, lower than a Ford GT40, yet measured over 15 feet long, a wedge of raw presence and impossible proportions. Its side profile defied traditional car design altogether. The hood and fenders blended into a single sharp prow, while the passenger compartment seemed to emerge like the cockpit of a jet fighter, complete with a single wraparound canopy instead of conventional doors. Instead of opening a door, the entire roof canopy tilted forward, along with a section of the windshield, revealing the two seats nestled low in the chassis. Even the seats themselves were fixed. Drivers raised and lowered themselves into place using an adjustable steering column and pedals that moved forward or backward. This focus on show car theatrics over usability wasn't an oversight, it was the point. In an age when automakers sent dream machines on national tours to stoke excitement for their production cars, the Charger 3 existed purely to drop jaws on the show circuit. And it worked. When it debuted at auto shows in 1968, it looked like a machine from another world, especially compared to the big block bruisers then rolling off Dodge's assembly lines. The hidden headlamps, the faired-in rear wheels, and the radical rear end with futuristic turbine-style vents pushed the Charger 3 far beyond anything buyers could actually drive home. The name Charger was more of a brand link than a genuine design lineage. The Charger 3 shared little with the actual Charger muscle car roaring down American highways, except the badge itself. Though it looked ready to tear up a track, the Charger 3 was never fitted with a working powertrain. Its lightweight fiberglass body sat on a tubular steel frame, and beneath the sleek engine cover there was nothing but empty space. It was the very definition of form without function, a car built not to be driven, but to be dreamed about. Yet the influence of the Charger 3 rippled far beyond its single prototype. Its low, forward-thrusting nose and hidden wheels foreshadowed design cues that would echo through the coming decades of concept cars. Even in the production Dodge Charger that followed, you can sense a whisper of the concept's long hood and fastback profile, distilled into something road-ready. Designers, historians, and enthusiasts still look back at the Charger 3 and wonder, what if Dodge had dared to build something closer to that radical vision? Its very existence is a testament to the optimism of its era. The late 1960s were a golden age for concept cars, not just for Dodge, but across the American auto industry. Designers weren't bound by wind tunnel data, emission standards, or focus groups. Instead, they worked with the freedom to craft machines that might never turn a wheel under their own power, but would burn themselves into the memory of everyone who saw them under the auto show lights.
Today, the Lone Charger 3 prototype survives as a time capsule of that moment when American carmakers dared to be wildly impractical, almost theatrical in their creativity. It stands as a reminder of a lost age, when a car could look like a spaceship, open like a fighter jet, and exist purely to ignite the imagination of anyone who laid eyes on it. And even without ever turning a tire on the open road, the Charger 3's radical lines ensure it still turns heads more than half a century later, proof that sometimes the cars that never drove at all leave the deepest tracks in history.
The 1977 AMC Hornet AMX, AMX by AMC hatchback stands as one of the most intriguing and underappreciated muscle-era holdovers in American automotive history. A compact car that, despite being built during the twilight years of the muscle car phenomenon, carries within its modest frame a defiant echo of raw performance and rebel spirit, a last flicker of AMC's gritty, independent soul. By the mid-1970s, the golden era of muscle cars had been all but extinguished. The nationwide oil crises had shifted consumer demand dramatically towards smaller, more fuel-efficient vehicles, and increasingly strict emissions regulations crushed engine outputs across the board. At the same time, insurance companies were making it prohibitively expensive to insure true muscle cars, and public enthusiasm was cooling. For the big three American automakers, this meant the muscle car was quickly transitioning from outright powerhouses to toned-down, muscle-ish models, or disappearing altogether. American Motors Corporation, AMC, the scrappy underdog in the automotive arena, was in a unique position. Without the vast resources of Detroit's giants, AMC had to be resourceful, often repurposing existing platforms to maximize appeal and minimize costs. The Hornet platform, compact, light, and versatile, became a central piece of AMC's strategy to compete against the influx of affordable, efficient imports flooding American showrooms. In 1977, AMC dusted off one of its most iconic badges, the AMX, reviving it in a form that was far from the high-performance two-seater that had dazzled enthusiasts a decade earlier. This time, the AMX by AMC was an option package applied to the practical, front-engine, rear-wheel drive Hornet hatchback. The concept was simple: add sporty visual flair, a more potent engine option, and performance-oriented suspension tweaks, and then hope to catch the attention of buyers who still yearned for a muscle car feeling, even if disguised in compact clothing. The AMX by AMC package came with aggressive styling touches that set it apart from standard Hornets. Distinctive racing stripes running along the hood and tailgate, bold AMX badging, a functional hood scoop, sporty rally wheels, and unique trim pieces. Inside, the car featured bucket seats and a rally-style gauge cluster, aiming to create an engaging cockpit feel for drivers tired of bland economy cars. Under the hood, AMC offered a few engine options, but the heart of the AMX by AMC was the optional 304 cubic inch V8. A relatively small displacement for the muscle era, but one that packed respectable punch for a compact car weighed down far less than full-size sedans. This 304 V8 produced roughly 150 horsepower in its 1977 tune. Modest for muscle car standards, but still capable of spirited acceleration and more satisfying performance than the typical 4- or 6-cylinder compact cars dominating the market at the time. The suspension and brakes received slight upgrades to handle the V8's extra power, giving the AMX a livelier, more responsive feel. However, the car was never meant to be a drag strip bruiser or road course weapon. Instead, it was a muscle car's soul dressed in compact practicality, a car that could navigate city streets and highways with a bit more vigor and style than its peers. Despite these efforts, AMC faced harsh market realities. Only about 2,800 Hornet AMX hatchbacks were produced in 1977, a tiny number compared to the millions of other cars from Detroit's giants and import manufacturers. The muscle car fever of the late 1960s was fading fast, and a compact,
muscle-ish hatchback didn't fit the nostalgic muscle car buyer's ideal. Insurance companies continued to penalize performance cars, and the rise of economy and safety regulations further limited appeal. Worse yet, AMC's limited dealer network and smaller marketing budgets meant that many buyers simply didn't know the Hornet AMX existed. It found some enthusiastic owners, true AMC fans who appreciated its blend of practicality and muscle, but most were sold as sensible compact cars with a touch of sporty attitude rather than as pure performance machines. Over the years, the typical fate of these cars was grim. With relatively low production and modest power, the Hornet AMX hatchbacks were often driven hard, poorly maintained, or neglected entirely. In many regions, especially those with harsh winters and road salt, rust claimed countless examples. By the 1980s and 1990s, most had either been scrapped or converted into project cars for enthusiasts who saw value in their rarity. This scarcity has turned surviving 1977 AMC Hornet AMX hatchbacks into coveted collector's items. Even among AMC enthusiasts who cherish rare Javelins, Gremlins, and Pacer variants, the Hornet AMX hatchback is a unicorn. Original, unmodified examples with matching numbers, intact interiors, and decent rust-free bodies command premium prices at auctions and shows, admired not only for their rarity but for their representation of an era of transition and tenacity. In that, the Hornet AMX hatchback holds a unique place, rare, resilient, and roaring softly but proudly in the shadows of muscle car giants.
The 1954 Plymouth Belmont is an exquisite testament to an era when American automakers were filled with bold ambitions, daring to experiment with design, materials, and technology in ways that would shape the future of the automobile. In the early 1950s, the automotive landscape was dominated by boxy, chrome-laden sedans and coupes, designed more for practicality and luxury than for passion or performance. Into this scene stepped the Belmont, a one-off fiberglass-bodied roadster that dared to rewrite the rulebook, embodying an unspoken promise that Plymouth, and by extension Chrysler, could deliver a true sports car that combined elegance, innovation, and driving excitement. This was a time of tremendous change in automotive engineering. Fiberglass was a new, almost revolutionary material for car construction. Unlike traditional steel, fiberglass offered tremendous freedom in shaping bodies, allowing designers to craft sweeping, sculptural forms that were lightweight yet strong. Plymouth's decision to use fiberglass for the Belmont's body was a forward-thinking gamble, intended not only to test the material's viability, but also to assess public appetite for a distinctly styled sports car emerging from Detroit, a city better known for producing robust, utilitarian vehicles rather than sleek, agile roadsters. The design language of the Belmont speaks directly to the influence of post-war European coach building, particularly Italian styling. Its low-slung, aerodynamic silhouette flows seamlessly from a long, elegantly arched hood through a smooth cabin line and tapering rear deck. Every curve and contour suggests motion even at a standstill, giving the car a graceful presence that belies its experimental nature. Unlike many American cars of the era, which often emphasized chrome excess and ornamentation, the Belmont's styling was restrained yet sophisticated. Clean lines accented by subtle details, such as integrated headlights and a minimalist grille, which contributed to an overall impression of poised athleticism. Inside, the Belmont featured a driver-centric cockpit that balanced simplicity with just enough luxury touches to hint at exclusivity. The interior was deliberately uncluttered, emphasizing a connection between driver and machine rather than overwhelming with superfluous trim or features. This approach, so common today in sports car design, was cutting edge in the 1950s and underscored Plymouth's intention to offer not just a showpiece, but a glimpse at a possible new direction for the brand. During its brief but shining moment on the auto show circuit, the Plymouth Belmont captivated audiences and critics alike. Its fiberglass body gleamed under show lights, its Italian-inspired curves stood out amid the sea of conventional Detroit steel, and its potential seemed boundless. Yet despite this enthusiastic reception, the Belmont's future was never fully realized. Unlike its contemporaries, the Chevrolet Corvette, then newly introduced and destined to become an American icon, and the Ford Thunderbird, which successfully melded luxury with sportiness, the Belmont never made it past the prototype phase. The reasons were as much about timing and corporate strategy as anything else. Plymouth and Chrysler were heavily invested in more traditional, volume-selling models, and the resources required to launch a new sports car program in the competitive and uncertain market were daunting. Following its auto show appearances, the Belmont quietly faded into obscurity, tucked away in Chrysler's archives. For decades, it remained a forgotten jewel, overshadowed by the success stories of the Corvette and Thunderbird and the broader muscle car boom that would dominate the coming decade. Yet among car historians, collectors, and aficionados, the Belmont quietly accrued a mystique as a rare and visionary experiment, a beautiful what might have been in the annals of American automotive design. In retrospect, the Plymouth Belmont embodies a fascinating intersection of innovation and aspiration. It encapsulates the spirit of mid-century America, a nation dreaming big, embracing new materials and ideas, and daring to compete on a global stage against the best European designs. The car's fiberglass body was ahead of its time, foreshadowing future sports cars and even mass-market vehicles that would use composite materials to improve performance and efficiency. Its Italian-inspired styling, so unusual for an American prototype, hinted at a globalizing design language that would shape the future of cars worldwide. Rather than following the crowd, the Belmont carved its own path, graceful, refined, and unmistakably forward-looking. Its roadster format also signaled a potential American answer to the growing popularity of European sports cars, offering open-air motoring with a uniquely American twist. Today, surviving images, documents, and occasional glimpses of the lone Plymouth Belmont prototype invite enthusiasts to reflect on the fragility of automotive dreams. It's a reminder that for every production legend, countless innovative designs and bold experiments never made it to market. Yet these one-offs, these lost cars, often have stories just as compelling, filled with hope, creativity, and the passion of engineers and designers pushing boundaries. For collectors and historians, the Plymouth Belmont is more than just a prototype. It's a symbol of untapped potential and a milestone in the evolution of American car design. Its rare, flowing fiberglass form, combined with its story of silent ambition, makes it a captivating artifact from a pivotal moment when Detroit briefly flirted with the idea of producing an American sports car that could rival Europe's finest. In the broader narrative of automotive history, the 1954 Plymouth Belmont reminds us that innovation isn't always measured by commercial success. Sometimes it's the quiet, elegant experiments, the beautiful cars tucked away from the spotlight that leave the deepest impression, inspiring future generations to dream bigger, design bolder, and embrace the unexpected.
The 1970 Monteverdi Hai 450 GTS represents a fascinating chapter in the story of one of Switzerland's most enigmatic and ambitious carmakers, Monteverdi, a brand that combined European elegance with raw American muscle in rare, breathtaking packages. Following the audacious launch of the original Hai 450 SS, a striking mid-engine supercar powered by Chrysler's legendary 7.2-liter Hemi V8, Monteverdi envisioned an evolution that would sharpen the car's already radical concept. This vision took shape in the form of the Hai 450 GTS, a single prototype that stands as a testament to the brand's blend of daring engineering and exotic styling, as well as the harsh realities that often accompany small-volume supercar manufacturers. The Hai 450 GTS was born from a desire to refine and improve upon the already aggressive and futuristic design of the Hai 450 SS, which had stunned the automotive world with its wedge-shaped body, gull-wing doors, and mid-mounted American V8 muscle. Monteverdi's founder, Peter Monteverdi, was no stranger to blending continents. His cars married European craftsmanship and flair with the brute force and reliability of Chrysler's big block engines. The original Hai 450 SS was powered by a monstrous 450 horsepower Hemi, making it a ferocious competitor to the established supercars of the time, yet with a distinct Swiss touch. For the 1970 Hai 450 GTS, Monteverdi sought to create a more aggressive and refined version that could potentially appeal to a broader audience of exotic car enthusiasts craving performance combined with cutting-edge style. The bodywork was sculpted with even sharper, more aerodynamic lines, taking the wedge shape to new extremes with cleaner, more purposeful edges and a more pronounced front splitter and rear spoiler elements. The intent was clear: to improve high-speed stability, reduce drag, and give the car an even more menacing road presence. Beneath the dramatic body lay the familiar heart of the beast, the mid-mounted Chrysler 426 Hemi V8, delivering its thunderous power through a rugged drivetrain designed to harness every ounce of the engine's brutal torque. The engine's placement in the middle of the chassis was key to the car's balance and handling, creating a weight distribution that allowed the Hai 450 GTS to handle corners with surprising agility despite its muscle car roots. Despite all this promise, only one Hai 450 GTS prototype was ever built. The challenges facing Monteverdi in the early 1970s were significant. The global oil crisis was looming, exotic car markets were shifting, and the costs of developing, certifying, and producing such a radical supercar were enormous for a small manufacturer. Additionally, the world was in the throes of tightening emissions regulations and increasing safety demands that made low-volume supercar production increasingly difficult and expensive. As a result, the Hai 450 GTS project was quietly shelved, leaving the lone prototype to spend decades in obscurity, often hidden away in private collections or forgotten storage facilities. It became one of those rare, lost supercars that only true connoisseurs and collectors knew about, an almost mythical machine that combined cutting-edge design, brutal power, and the uncompromising Swiss pursuit of automotive perfection. Today, the Hai 450 GTS stands as a fascinating snapshot of a moment when automotive dreams could still be wild and uncompromising, when a small, passionate manufacturer could dream of taking on the established supercar titans with a uniquely European-American hybrid. Its sleek, aggressive styling still turns heads among collectors and historians, and its Chrysler Hemi powertrain echoes a time when muscle and sophistication collided in some of the world's most beautiful and rare machines. While the Hai 450 GTS never reached production or earned widespread fame, its legacy endures as a symbol of Monteverdi's bold vision and the wild, uncompromising spirit of early 1970s supercar development. It reminds us that behind every iconic car, countless prototypes and experiments shaped the future of automotive design. Even if, like the Hai 450 GTS, they remain hidden from the limelight, treasured by a select few who appreciate their blend of rarity, power, and daring innovation.
The 1962 Ford Mustang I concept is a remarkable and often overlooked jewel in the history of American automotive design, a visionary experiment that laid important groundwork for what would become one of the most iconic cars in the world. Long before the famous 1964 Mustang captivated millions with its blend of style, performance, and affordability, Ford's engineers and designers were exploring an entirely different concept: a pure, lightweight, two-seat sports car with a mid-engine layout and a compact yet innovative V4 power plant. This radical design direction was a far cry from the pony car that ultimately took the market by storm,
but it embodies the spirit of innovation and bold thinking that defined Ford's approach during the early 1960s. In the early 1960s, the American car market was dominated by large sedans and muscle cars that focused heavily on straight-line speed and size. Yet a small but growing niche of driving enthusiasts craved something more nimble, responsive, and intimate, qualities exemplified by European roadsters such as the Austin Healey, Triumph TR Series, and Porsche 356. Recognizing this emerging trend, Ford executives commissioned a design team to explore the idea of a compact sports car that could compete on handling, agility, and style rather than brute power alone. The result was the Mustang I concept, a daring departure from traditional American design philosophy. At its heart was a 1.5-liter V4 engine, a power plant chosen not for raw horsepower, but for its compact size, lightweight, and mechanical simplicity. This engine, producing approximately 120 horsepower, was mounted transversely behind the driver, establishing a mid-engine configuration that was extraordinarily rare for American cars of the era. The placement promised ideal weight distribution, enhancing the car's cornering ability and driving dynamics. Paired with a 4-speed manual transmission, the Mustang I offered an engaging, hands-on driving experience that placed the driver at the center of the machine's mechanical ballet. Visually, the Mustang I was a triumph of futuristic design and aerodynamic efficiency. Its low, sleek profile with sharp, clean lines and minimal ornamentation evoked the minimalist elegance of European sports cars rather than the ornate, chrome-heavy styling typical of Detroit's offerings at the time. The car's proportions were strikingly compact, barely longer than a modern-day compact car, yet it exuded an aggressive stance enhanced by wide track and muscular fenders that hinted at its performance capabilities. The cockpit was tight and driver-focused, with a wraparound windshield and minimalist instrumentation that emphasized control and simplicity. The interior layout reinforced the car's focus on the pure driving experience. Unlike later Mustangs, which would accommodate 4 passengers and focus on comfort and practicality, the Mustang I was a dedicated 2-seater. Its sparse cabin stripped away all non-essentials to forge a close connection between driver and road, a philosophy common among European sports cars, but almost unheard of in American production vehicles at that time. Despite its innovation and promise, the Mustang I concept was always intended as a design study and engineering experiment rather than a production-ready vehicle. Ford's leadership ultimately decided that the American market was not yet ready for such a specialized sports car. Instead, they sought a broader appeal with a car that combined sporty styling and spirited performance with everyday usability and affordability. This vision led to the front-engine rear-wheel drive Mustang that debuted in 1964, featuring a more conventional layout, larger engine options, and a 4-seat configuration that could attract a wider range of buyers. The Mustang I-1's mid-engine 2-seat design was effectively shelved, but its influence lingered beneath the surface. It demonstrated that Ford engineers were capable of pushing boundaries and exploring fresh ideas, laying the conceptual foundation for the Mustang's eventual success. Moreover, it planted a seed of possibility for future mid-engine sports cars, a layout that decades later would re-emerge as the pinnacle of performance in both American and global supercars. Today, the sole surviving Mustang I concept is a treasured artifact preserved in the Henry Ford Museum in Dearborn, Michigan. Its presence there serves as a tangible reminder of Ford's creative boldness and willingness to experiment during a pivotal era in automotive history. The Mustang I invites enthusiasts and historians to imagine an alternate timeline in which Ford pursued a pure, nimble sports car path, rather than the muscle and style formula that ultimately dominated the 1960s. In the context of automotive heritage, the 1962 Mustang I concept holds a special place as a rare glimpse into an untaken road.
a design that embraced lightweight agility, innovative packaging, and driver engagement at a time when most American cars focused on size and horsepower. It stands as a symbol of unrestrained creativity, a beautiful aerodynamic roadster that dared to envision a different kind of Mustang, one that might have reshaped American sports cars long before the pony car era truly began. For collectors, historians, and Mustang aficionados, the Mustang I is more than just a concept car. It is a testament to the spirit of invention and a reminder that the icons we celebrate often have roots in experiments that never quite made it to the showroom. The 1962 Ford Mustang I concept remains a stunning piece of design and engineering history, quietly resting as a visionary ghost of what might have been, and inspiring future generations to dream beyond convention.
The 1956 Continental Mark II convertible prototype is a rare and fascinating chapter in the history of American luxury automobiles, a glimpse into what might have been one of the most elegant and exclusive convertibles ever produced. The Continental Mark II itself was a masterpiece of design and craftsmanship, conceived as Lincoln's answer to Europe's most prestigious luxury brands, including Rolls-Royce and Bentley. Priced higher than even some of these storied marques, the Mark II represented the pinnacle of 1950s American luxury, combining refined styling, impeccable build quality, and exclusivity. Yet even in its coupe form, the Mark II was a financial gamble for Ford, and that gamble became even riskier when Lincoln engineers contemplated a convertible version. In 1956, amidst the Mark II's limited production run, Lincoln built a single Continental Mark II convertible prototype, a rare and striking vehicle that dared to imagine the flagship luxury coupe in open-air form. This unique convertible retained all the elegance and luxury that made the Mark II special. Its long, low silhouette, restrained yet graceful lines, and exquisite attention to detail in chrome trim, leather upholstery, and hand-finished fittings. However, the open-top design added an entirely new dimension of allure and exclusivity, transforming the Mark II into a car that could offer not only prestige and comfort, but also the freedom and glamour of open-air motoring. The decision to build the convertible prototype was likely driven by a desire to expand the Mark II's appeal to an even more exclusive clientele who might want the prestige of a Continental combined with the luxury and lifestyle associated with a convertible. Yet the project never moved beyond this lone prototype. Several factors contributed to the decision not to put the convertible into production. Most importantly, the Mark II was already an expensive, hand-built flagship that was struggling to turn a profit. Its meticulous craftsmanship and limited production meant the car was costly to produce, and sales, while respectable for such a niche vehicle, were not enough to justify additional costly variants. Moreover, the engineering challenges of converting the coupe into a convertible were significant. Maintaining the structural rigidity and refinement expected of a Continental while removing the fixed roof required extensive re-engineering and reinforcement, which would have driven costs even higher. The combination of financial risk and technical complexity made the convertible a tough sell for Ford executives focused on controlling costs. For decades, the single 1956 Continental Mark II convertible prototype remained a what-if in automotive lore, a tantalizing, almost mythical example of what could have been. Unlike the coupe, which gained recognition as one of the most beautiful and luxurious American cars of its era, the convertible prototype remained hidden away in private collections and archives, rarely seen by the public. Its rarity and backstory have made it a highly sought-after piece of Americana among collectors who prize it for its rarity, craftsmanship, and the story of unfulfilled potential. Today, the lone Mark II convertible prototype stands as a stunning symbol of American automotive ambition at its most refined and daring. It embodies the spirit of an era when luxury was defined by meticulous handcrafting and bold attempts to rival the world's best, even at great financial risk.
The car's graceful lines, rich materials, and elegant presence continue to captivate enthusiasts who see in it the promise of a more glamorous, open-air expression of America's post-war luxury ideal. In the end, the 1956 Continental Mark II convertible prototype remains a beautiful, elusive icon, a rare gem frozen in time, embodying both the heights of 1950s luxury car design and the limits imposed by economics and engineering. For collectors and historians alike, it offers a fascinating glimpse into a road not taken, reminding us how close Lincoln came to expanding its legendary Mark II legacy into a convertible that could rival the most exclusive drop-tops of its era.
The 1971 Chrysler Turbine Car prototype number 46 stands as one of the most extraordinary and visionary chapters in the history of automotive innovation. A rare and fully functional survivor from an ambitious era when Chrysler sought to revolutionize the automobile with jet-inspired turbine technology. This remarkable car is not merely a museum piece or a relic. It is a living testament to the daring and experimental spirit of the 1960s and early 70s, when the automotive industry dared to imagine a future far beyond the familiar rumble of piston engines. The story of the Chrysler Turbine Car program began in the early 1960s as engineers and designers at Chrysler grappled with the limitations and complexities of traditional internal combustion engines. The idea was bold and revolutionary: to harness the power of a gas turbine engine, a technology already proven in aircraft, and apply it to a passenger car. Turbine engines promised many advantages. They had far fewer moving parts than piston engines, required less maintenance, could run on a wide variety of fuels, and produced a smooth, vibration-free delivery of power. It was a vision of the future, a dream of effortless speed and reliability, wrapped in a sleek, futuristic package. Between 1963 and 1964, Chrysler built 55 turbine-powered cars and loaned them to carefully selected customers across the United States. This real-world testing program was unprecedented. Ordinary people drove these cars in everyday conditions, through city streets, highways, and even rural areas, providing invaluable feedback on the turbine's performance, reliability, and drivability. The goal was to gather data, refine the technology, and demonstrate that the turbine engine could be a viable alternative to the conventional piston engine. However, the road to success was riddled with challenges. While the turbine engine offered silky smooth acceleration and a distinctive jet-like sound that was thrilling and unlike anything else on the road, it also had notable drawbacks. The engine's throttle response was sluggish compared to traditional engines, making the car feel unresponsive at times. The turbine's exhaust heat reached extremely high temperatures, posing engineering challenges for heat management and safety. Moreover, fuel consumption and emissions control were problematic, especially on an era when tightening regulations were beginning to shape the industry's future. These factors, combined with the high cost of production and maintenance, ultimately led Chrysler to conclude that mass production of turbine cars was not economically feasible. After the testing program ended, Chrysler destroyed nearly all of the turbine cars to protect proprietary technology and minimize liability, leaving only 9 known survivors worldwide. Among these, the 1971 Chrysler Turbine Car prototype number 46 stands out as one of the rare, fully operational examples that still run today. This car has been meticulously maintained and restored over the decades, preserving not only its original engineering marvels, but also its distinctive futuristic presence. Visually, the Turbine Car 46 looks like a snapshot from a sci-fi film made decades ahead of its time. Its sleek, aerodynamic body, smooth curves, and absence of conventional grills or exhaust pipes make it instantly recognizable and unmistakably forward-thinking. The interior complements the exterior's futuristic theme, featuring minimalist instrumentation, comfortable seating, and design cues that emphasize both luxury and innovation.
Driving Car 46 is an experience that defies comparison. The turbine engine produces an unmistakable, high-pitched whine and a smooth, linear surge of power that feels like piloting a jet rather than a car. The absence of traditional gear shifts, thanks to the turbine's continuously variable power delivery, creates an effortless acceleration that can surprise even seasoned drivers. Its ability to run on various fuels, from unleaded gasoline to kerosene and diesel, was an engineering marvel for its time, underscoring the versatility that Chrysler had envisioned for the turbine future. Despite the program's cancellation, the legacy of the Chrysler Turbine Car continues to inspire. It remains a symbol of an era when American automakers were unafraid to challenge convention and invest in groundbreaking technology, even when the odds of commercial success were slim. The turbine car represents the collision of aerospace technology with automotive design, a fleeting glimpse of a possible future that never fully materialized but left an indelible mark on engineering history. Today, Car 46 is cherished by collectors, museums, and enthusiasts who recognize its significance as both an engineering achievement and a cultural artifact. It embodies the daring optimism of mid-century America, a period when innovation was fueled by bold ideas and fearless experimentation. This car is not just a machine, it is a story of ambition, risk, and the pursuit of progress, still capable of turning heads and sparking conversations wherever it appears. In the grand tapestry of automotive history, the Chrysler Turbine Car prototype number 46 stands as a rare jewel, a beautiful paradox of success and failure, brilliance and impracticality. It reminds us that the path to progress is often paved with bold experiments that stretch the imagination and push the limits of what is possible. And for those fortunate enough to see it in motion, to hear the haunting, jet-like wail of its turbine engine, Car 46 offers a tangible connection to a fascinating what-if, a vision of tomorrow that still resonates loudly decades after its creation.
The 1969 AMX/2 concept stands as one of the most remarkable, if often overlooked, chapters in the storied saga of American muscle car history. In an automotive landscape dominated by Detroit's Big Three manufacturers, Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler, American Motors Corporation, AMC, was the scrappy underdog, known more for economy cars and practical designs than high-performance exotic machinery. Yet, amid the turmoil and fierce competition of the late 1960s, AMC's design and engineering teams dared to imagine a bolder, more adventurous future for the company's muscle car image. The AMX/2 concept embodied that audacity, a sleek, mid-engine, two-seat supercar that could have rewritten the script for American performance vehicles. Conceived during a time when mid-engine layouts were primarily the realm of European exotic manufacturers such as Ferrari and Lamborghini, the AMX/2 was a radical departure from AMC's existing AMX, a traditional front-engine, rear-wheel drive sports car introduced in 1968 to compete with the Mustang and Camaro. By proposing a mid-engine successor, AMC was signaling its intention to challenge European engineering on their own turf. This shift was not just a change in layout, it was a bold statement of ambition, innovation, and a desire to transcend the limitations of budget muscle cars. The AMX/2 was never intended as a production-ready vehicle, but was designed as a show car to captivate audiences and demonstrate AMC's design prowess. Built in Italy by renowned coach builder Giotturo Bizzarini, who had a pedigree steeped in high performance and exotic sports cars, the AMX/2 featured an aggressively low, wedge-shaped silhouette that was both futuristic and functional. Its sharply angled nose, dramatically sculpted body panels, and truncated rear combined to create a profile that seemed to slice through the air with minimal resistance.
Unlike many American cars of the era, which favored chrome embellishments and pronounced fins, the AMX/2 was stark and minimalist, prioritizing aerodynamics and sleekness. The interior followed suit, with a cockpit-like driver's environment that reflected the car's exotic aspirations. The cabin was low, compact, and driver-focused, with seating and controls designed to foster an intimate connection between man and machine. The exterior and interior together communicated a sense of speed and sophistication that transcended AMC's image as a maker of utilitarian vehicles. The AMX/2's styling, though now more than 5 decades old, still looks astonishingly modern, with many design cues that could easily be at home in today's supercar market. However, despite its dramatic appearance and bold engineering concepts, the AMX/2 never advanced beyond the concept phase. AMC faced a perfect storm of financial constraints, corporate challenges, and strategic priorities that made the costly development of such an advanced mid-engine sports car untenable. Engineering a mid-engine platform from scratch demanded significant investment in chassis design, suspension, cooling systems, and drivetrain integration, resources AMC simply could not afford. Moreover, the muscle car market was shifting, with insurance premiums soaring and emissions regulations tightening, placing further pressure on manufacturers to adapt quickly rather than chase high-cost, niche projects. The AMX/2's absence from the production line left the car as a solitary testament to what might have been. The single example built remains a static display vehicle, lacking a running drivetrain and never tested on roads or tracks. Yet, its existence is a testament to AMC's ambition and creative spirit. It embodied a hope that the company could transcend its small player status, leapfrog conventional muscle cars, and compete on the level of Europe's finest sports cars. That it didn't happen adds a bittersweet aura of unrealized potential and what-ifs to the car's legacy. Today, the 1969 AMX/2 concept resides quietly in collections and museums, treasured by enthusiasts who recognize it as a rare glimpse into an alternate automotive history, one where AMC dared to dream beyond economy and practicality and flirted with exotic performance. It is a physical manifestation of a fleeting moment when a smaller American automaker dared to envision a future of sleek, mid-engine supercars, pushing against the boundaries of its own corporate reality. The AMX/2's design still inspires designers and automotive historians alike, reminding them that innovation does not always mean success, but often requires boldness, risk, and vision. It challenges the common narrative that American muscle cars of the era were all about brute force and traditional layouts, showing instead that creativity and forward-thinking design were present in unexpected places. For collectors, the AMX/2 is a priceless artifact, a rare jewel that embodies both the hope and limitations of AMC during a turbulent period. Its sleek lines and enigmatic presence continue to captivate those who see it, inviting speculation about what might have been had AMC found the resources and will to build this mid-engine marvel. In the annals of automotive history, the 1969 AMX/2 concept remains a haunting, beautiful what-if, a reminder that sometimes the most fascinating stories are not those of mass production and commercial triumph, but those of dreams daring to reach beyond their grasp.
The 1953 Alfa Romeo BAT 5 stands as a breathtaking landmark in automotive history, a car that transcended conventional design to become a visionary masterpiece of aerodynamic artistry. BAT, an acronym for Berlinetta Aerodynamica Tecnica, was the brainchild of the talented Franco Scaglione, an Italian designer whose imagination and technical brilliance helped redefine what a car could look like and how it could slice through the air.
Crafted under the watchful eyes of the legendary Bertone design house, the BAT 5 was not just a car, it was a rolling work of art, a sculptural study that embodied the post-war optimism and technical daring of 1950s Italy, where innovation and elegance intertwined seamlessly. At a time when the automotive world was still largely focused on raw engine power and stylistic flourishes rooted in tradition, the BAT 5 marked a paradigm shift. It was a research vehicle designed to push the boundaries of aerodynamic efficiency decades before wind tunnels and drag coefficients became industry standards. Alfa Romeo, eager to establish itself as a leader not only in performance but in engineering innovation, commissioned this extraordinary project to demonstrate how sculpted aerodynamic forms could reduce air resistance, improve stability at speed, and increase fuel efficiency, principles that would become essential in future automotive design. What makes the BAT 5 so captivating is its uncanny, almost surreal appearance. Franco Scaglione sculpted a car that seems to emerge from a different realm, with curves and fins that evoke living creatures from the depths of the ocean or sleek spacecraft from science fiction. The exaggerated, sweeping rear tail fins were not mere decorative flourishes. They were meticulously engineered to manage airflow and minimize drag, a pioneering approach that foreshadowed modern aerodynamic aids. The front end's pointed nose and integrated air intakes further channeled air smoothly over the body, reducing turbulence and granting the car a distinctly aggressive yet elegant stance. Underneath its mesmerizing aluminum body, the BAT 5 was built on a modified chassis from the Alfa Romeo 1900 series, a reliable and lightweight platform that allowed the car to be driven and tested. Powered by Alfa's 2.0-liter inline-4 engine, the BAT 5 was capable of respectable speeds, though outright performance was secondary to the aerodynamic experiment. The real magic lay in the way its extraordinary shape could glide through the air with minimal resistance, a feat that was as much about science as it was about style. Only a single BAT 5 was ever crafted, but its impact resonated far beyond that lone prototype. It inaugurated a groundbreaking trilogy of aerodynamic experiments with its successors, the BAT 7 in 1954 and the BAT 9 in 1955, each building on the last with more extreme and sophisticated shapes, further refining the principles of aerodynamic performance and design daring. Collectively, these three cars are regarded as some of the most radical and beautiful concept cars ever made, representing the golden era of Italian coach building when design was unshackled from production constraints and driven by passion and ingenuity. Among collectors, designers, and automotive historians, the BAT 5 remains an almost mythical figure, its ethereal, alien lines inspiring awe and wonder. Seeing one in person is a rare and surreal experience, as if stepping into a dream where art and engineering meld into a single breathtaking form. It embodies a time when the future of the automobile was uncertain, but filled with endless possibility, and when designers like Scaglione dared to dream beyond what was practical, imagining instead what could be revolutionary. Today, the sole surviving Alfa Romeo BAT 5 is a treasured jewel in museums and private collections around the world. It stands not only as a symbol of technical innovation and aesthetic brilliance, but as a testament to the creative spirit that drives the automotive industry forward. It reminds us that true design greatness often lies not in mass production or commercial success, but in the courage to take risks, challenge norms, and reimagine the very shape and soul of the automobile. The BAT 5's legacy endures as a masterpiece of 20th century design, a timeless beacon of what happens when engineering meets artistry at its most inspired.